Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of the Stitching Between Pages podcast. I'm Robin, and you can find me on Ravelry as halfpast92, on Instagram and Twitter as medievalisting, and we have a Ravelry group, which is at Stitching Between Pages podcast, and show notes for this and all previous episodes can be found at stitchingbetweenpages.blogspot.com. Obviously, I am joined once again, I'm back in Chicago, and I am joined once again by my co-host Holly Noise. So she was being very noisy earlier. I'm hoping that she sat down on my lap and is just going to be content to sit here and sort of half appear. I don't know, she's purring really loudly. But if she decides to walk across, oh, she's chewing on my tea bag, the little piece of paper at the end of the string. So we'll see how this goes. It took me a few minutes to convince her to sit down and just sort of not make noise. But anyways, today is, well, I'm filming this on Saturday, but when I upload it, it will be Sunday, January 10th. The new high quality footage means that my podcast episodes now take 8 hours to upload instead of 2. So I'm filming on Saturday instead. But thank you to everybody who got in touch and commented that they noticed the improved quality of the podcast, of the video, and I guess the audio as well. It's really great that you all noticed that, and I'm obviously hugely thrilled with my new setup and the better quality that it brings. So yes, thank you everybody for letting me know. Before I jump in and start showing you knitting things, I wanted to mention the knit-along in our group, which I hope you all had a lovely New Year's celebration, and that your 2016 is off to a good start. But the first of the year also meant the start of our very first ever knit-along, the Post-Christmas Blues knit-along. And I just want to say how amazing it is to see everybody posting in the chatter thread, to be following the hashtag on Instagram. The hashtag on Instagram is hashtag postchristmasblues, KAL. And just the amount of community that has come out of this knit-along is hugely inspiring and amazing to me. So I wanted to thank all of you for that. It's really exciting to see everybody's progress on their projects. I'll show you my project in a little bit. I decided at the very last possible minute, I did cast on the 1st of January, but it was in the evening, finally made a decision about what pattern I was going to knit. But there's somebody knitting a baby blanket, there's a couple of cardigans, there's somebody knitting a project from Handspun, there's socks and hats, and it's just so fun, you all. I'm really, really excited with how this is going. And as a reminder, we have 3 really fabulous prizes, 2 skeins of yarn and a project bag. So just as a reminder, I will be drawing, I guess the first podcast that I film after the end of the knit-along. The end of the knit-along is January 29th, or not, excuse me, February 29th. So it's 2 months, so you still have plenty of time. But just as a reminder, I will be drawing prizes only from the show-off thread. So if you haven't already posted your project in the show-off thread, whether or not it's finished, please feel free to do so. Just as a reminder, it's 1 post per project, but you can update that as you go along. It does not have to be a finished object to be posted and eligible for a prize. So if any of that was unclear, the rules are over in the Ravelry group. And please feel free to ask me via either on the forum or via PM on Ravelry if you have any questions or are confused about anything. But again, it's so much fun. I really can't thank you guys enough for sort of jumping in and getting started. There's a lot of people who this is their first knit-along, which I think is so cool. So yeah, thank you all. It's really exciting, and I'm really, really enjoying seeing how everything is unfolding and seeing everybody's projects come to life. So now let me jump into the knitting. I apologize, I keep looking down and doing weird things with my hands. I have a cat on my lap. I think they missed me while I was gone. They stayed with a family friend, but I think they were sad that I left them for quite some time. But anyways, I think they've also forgiven me, gotten over it. So before I talk about my knitting, I'll talk about my mug, which appeared on Instagram, and somebody commented that they really liked my mug. And it's one that I've had for a very long time, but I sort of just found it again at my parents' house when I was visiting them for Christmas. And so I said, you know, can I bring it back with me? And I did. So it is my mug, but it says, let's see here, please focus, little camera. Sawbill, Canoe Outfitters. And Sawbill Canoe Outfitters is a canoe outfitter in Ely, Minnesota, which is one of the sort of gateway points to the Boundary Waters. And I've gone camping in the Boundary Waters twice. And for any of you who haven't heard of it, I've been twice, and it was, gosh, 10 years ago probably. But I went on 2 week-long camping trips, 2 different summers. And so the Boundary Waters is this, I guess, group of lakes, all very, very near to each other, sort of on the Minnesota-Canada border. And I believe part of the Boundary Waters is in Minnesota and part of it is in Canada. And basically there's no motorized boats allowed. It's pretty much mostly canoeing. You pack in all your stuff at the beginning of your trip. You pack out all your stuff at the end. There's primitive campsites with basically a fire grate. But it's absolutely beautiful, and home to probably the best night skies I have ever seen. Just, you know, the sheer amount of stars that you can see, and it's pretty cool to pack in, you know, 50-pound packs and 60-pound canoes and to portage between the lakes, and it's something I'd really like to go back someday. But for now, this mug is my way of remembering those trips. So yeah. So anyways, now knitting for real. It's been 7.5 minutes. So I do have a finished object this week, and it will probably come as absolutely no surprise that it is my other conversationalist hat. So this one was finished for last episode. This is the second one. And as you can see, I just flip-flopped the light and the dark neutral shades. And I thought this one was going to be my favorite, but I'm actually really pleased with this one too. I was worried that the pale color and the yellow wouldn't have enough contrast, but I think they really do. So as I said, one of these is for me and one of them is for a very, very good friend of mine. And I'm not sure which one I'm keeping yet. So yeah, I have to decide, because one of these is her Christmas present, and it's now well after Christmas. But we always send belated Christmas presents anyways, partially because we're both terrible at managing to send off packages in a timely fashion, but partially also because it's fun to keep Christmas going a little bit longer. So anyways, I knit both of them out of, obviously it's the same 3 colors. This pom-pom needs a little help. I need to sew it on a little bit better. But I knit these out of 3 different colors, and I have a little bit of each left over, so I need to see if there's some sort of stripy project that uses, I probably have 100 grams, maybe not quite 100 grams of sort of heavy worsted weight yarn. So if any of you have any ideas for what to do, I haven't actually weighed the leftover scraps, and I did not bring them over. They're more than scraps. It's probably 1/4 to 1/3 of each ball, and I have about the same amount of each color, I'm going to guess. But anyways, it's 3 colors of Knit Picks, City Tweed, heavy worsted. This, oh gosh, I said the wrong, I think I called it Onyx last time I podcasted. I think it's really called Orca, this color. This color is lemon curd, and it's pretty much exactly the yellow of lemon curd. And this color is snowshoe. So, and the Conversationalist is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a plucky knitter pattern, and it's designed to be knit with their worsted weight yarn, but I went with Knit Picks. But I really love how they turned out. I think the tweed gives it sort of a nice extra dimension. And the color block is just so fun and fresh And yeah, I'm super pleased with those. Also, I need to make my decision very, very quickly about which one is mine, because after weeks of mild winter in Chicago, we had a little bit of snow. Let's see, it would have been after Christmas, but before I got back, and I got back to the city just before New Year's Eve. I got back on the 30th. So somewhere in between there, we had maybe an inch of snow. And it's mostly gone now because the past few days have been almost 40 degrees. I went and ran some errands yesterday, and including to Target, where everything I needed was on sale except for cat food. So Holly needs to get a job. Anyways, ran an errand wearing a wool flannel shirt, an LL Bean flannel shirt, a puffy vest or body warmer or gilet, depending on where you're from and what you call that garment, like a coat with no sleeves, and a scarf and a hat. That was it. No gloves, no coat. It was very strange. Not sure how I felt about it. But this coming week, we are looking at highs in the teens, lows in the single digits. I think the low on Tuesday is 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And that does not take into account the wind chill. So I am going to get all of my winter garments out and give them a run for their money. I think I might try putting my Ada's cardigan, which is really, really heavy. I wear it as a coat sometimes. If it's like 40 degrees or 35 degrees, I'll wear it as a coat underneath my actual winter coat. Depending on how brutal the wind chill is, that might be what I do. But clearly a nice heavy worsted weight hat would be the perfect thing. So I need to make my decision about which one is going to my friend and which one I'm keeping. Speaking of cardigans, I am wearing my Strand Hill cardigan, which it's been on the podcast before as a work in progress and then as a finished object. And I was deciding what to wear this morning, and I thought to myself, you know what? You have never worn a cardigan that you knit on the podcast. So that's what I'm doing. And it's not super cold today. I think today is it's going to get cold overnight, and they're talking about snow, which is exciting because I love snow. But right now it's sort of 35-ish and just gray. I almost filmed yesterday and it was really gray. And then I decided that I had to film today anyways, but it's still really gray. So on to works in progress, because I clearly just keep rambling and rambling about stuff that's not related to knitting at all. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to drink all of my tea before I get to the end of the podcast. So let me show you what I am knitting. And I will start off with my post-Christmas blues knit-along project. Hang on, I got a little basket, which is going to mostly live on my bookshelf, but here, I'll show it to you. Here's my little basket. It's going to mostly live on one of my bookshelves, in between two gray striped bins that I've had for a long time, because I love gray and yellow. Can we tell? But I decided it'd be the perfect thing to put all my projects in to bring them over to my desk. So I am knitting. Here's the yarn. It is really, really pretty. It has some silk content, so it's really shiny, if it focuses. I am going to have to play around with this because this is driving me crazy. There we go. It is absolutely stunning in person. It's this beautiful, the color is called French Chambray, which I think perfectly describes the color. Holly, what are you doing? It is some Mrs. Crosby. Holly, oh my goodness. You are a menace. A menace. It is Mrs. Crosby Loves to Play. Oh, and there's the cat. Hello, we're focusing on the cat. Okay, you can see that. It's the Hat Box, which is the sport weight yarn. There we go. And you can see it has silk and cashmere in it. About 320-ish yards, and it's French chambray. And it is absolutely beautiful. I got this about a year ago at my old local yarn shop. And I got it during their winter sale. Their sort of post-Christmas big big sale. My mom and I went very early because the earlier you showed up, the more discount you got. And this yarn was not part of the sale. It was one of the few yarns that was not included in the discount. And they were like, you understand that this is not one of the yarns that's on sale. Are you sure you still want to buy it? And I was like, yes, I do. And I've sort of been waiting for the right project to come along for it because obviously it's, with silk and cashmere in it, it's way too special just to knit up into something boring. And this is it. So this is, and obviously I have made quite a bit of progress since I posted a picture on Instagram. But this is the Upstairs Downstairs cowl by Paula Emmons Fusley. I don't know how she pronounces her surname, but it will be in my show notes. And it is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. And it's, if it would focus, you would see that it's just a really simple lace with some garter stitch bands. And I wanted to pick a project that I knew I could finish in time, like over the course of the cowl. I thought it would be a bit silly to start knitting a project for my own knit along and not be able to finish. I think I underestimated because it took a lot of restraint not to have this as a finished object for this episode. So I will be finishing this probably before the next episode. But yeah, it's just a really lovely, it's really simple. The lace is one row, so you can memorize it in, you do one row and you have it memorized. But I think it's perfect for this yarn because it's simple enough that, it sort of really shows off how lovely the yarn is. And so I'm knitting this on, in fact, the same needles on which I knit my conversationalist hat. They are Knit Picks Caspians. And these are US 7, which I believe is a 4.5 millimeter. I think I got that right. Because the 6 is a 4 millimeter. I do know that. But yes, I highly recommend this pattern, especially for somebody who's like maybe a first-time lace knitter. This would be a really great. It's quick enough that you won't get bored with just the one row lace. It has 3 sizes. I am knitting obviously the smallest size because I don't have a ton of yarn. I'm going to have leftovers, I know, but I didn't want to risk knitting the medium size, and I didn't want to have to do the math to ensure that I wouldn't run out of yarn, and I don't have a cowl this size. My other cowls are much bigger. So I thought it would be fun just to have a single loop little cowl. That's cowl, C-O-W-L, not cal, K-A-L for knit along. But yeah, I thought it would be different enough from other things that I had. But yes, if you're a new lace knitter or wanting to try knitting lace, I would highly recommend this pattern. I think it's $5 on Ravelry. So that is one work in progress, which again, really enjoying. My next work in progress, I showed this yarn several episodes ago, 2 episodes ago, which is Quince and Company. Gosh, Finch, I think that's their, hello. I think Finch is the fingering weight yarn from Quince and Company in the Bosque colorway, Bosque pear. And I asked if anybody had any recommendations for a cabled fingerless mitt pattern. And I received quite a few suggestions, so thank you everybody for those. And I'm definitely planning to return to those suggestions. I have 2 skeins of this yarn, so maybe the other one will be turned into cabled fingerless mitts. And I have not made a whole lot of progress on these, but they are not going to be cabled fingerless mitts at all. I only have the cuff done, so it's not super exciting at the moment. And it's kind of paused because I need to sit down. The pattern is Kaerlig, K-A-E-R-L-I-G, Kaerlig, I don't know, by Isolde Teague. And it's a pattern, it's from her most recent Knitworthy collection, so I think that's Knitworthy 2. But it's sort of an interesting construction with garter stitch fingerless mitt pattern. So they are going to be fingerless mitts. They just won't have cables. But the reason I've paused is because the pattern was written for magic loop. And alas, I don't have a long enough circular to do magic loop in the right size. I'm pretty sure, I'm looking and my needles don't say on them what size they are. I'm pretty sure these are US 3s. And these are the Knit Picks Sunstruck wooden DPNs. I will put in the show notes what size I'm actually using. I'm pretty sure it's a 3. Pretty sure that's a 2.75 millimeter needle. I made sure to write down the pattern name and the designer for both upstairs, downstairs, and for the Care League mitts because I knew I would forget. But I did not think to look up and write down the needle size. But the point of the story still stands that I'm knitting these on DPNs. The pattern was written for Magic Loop, so I need to do a little bit of creative thinking to adapt because of the way that the mitts are constructed. As I think everybody knows by now, I really like interesting constructions. And so that's part of what drew me to knitting these mitts instead of something more traditionally constructed with cables like I originally wanted to do. But it means that I need to do a little bit of extra figuring. I guess I could just buy a circular needle that's the right size. But now that I've started on DPNs, I kind of want to see it through. And I know I can do it. And I think the pattern even says, you know, this is totally doable on DPNs, but you'll have to do a little bit of thinking about how to do it. So that's that. Hopefully, it's one of those things that, you know, when I have a few minutes and I'm back to school. So that sort of is taking up most of my brain power at the moment. But when I have a few minutes, I will figure it out. So my final knitting, no, I lied. I have 2 more knitting works in progress. I wish I could show you my cat right now. I guess I could. We're going to give this a shot, and I hope nobody gets seasick. She has her chin resting on the table. How cute is that? Okay, now I've just collapsed one of the legs of my tripod. There we go. Okay, so that was a nice little digression. I hope nobody got seasick. I'm really sorry. So I have 2 more knitting works in progress. And the first one of these 2, which I'm back at it and I'm in love again, is my doodler. And I have to apologize. My circular is way too short for the well over 500 stitches that I have on it, as you can see. So I can't really show you. And frankly, I really have I've seen finished projects, so I have some idea of what it will hopefully look like when I bind it off and unwrinkle it and, you know. But for now, that's what you got, and that's what I get. So I said last episode when I was still working on the second clue, I'm obviously on to clue 3 now, and I've just gone ahead and showed it because it's now been like a month and a half since the Mystery Knit Along finished. So, I mean, if you haven't, I'm really sorry if I spoiled it for anybody. That is certainly not my intention. But anyways, I was working on clue 2, which is this cable. And I think I messed up my stitch count because I have this long bit with no cable at the end, which is longer than it should be. I think I just counted wrong. But whatever, I think it'll be fine. And so I was working on the second clue last episode, and I said, you know, this clue is frustrating me because the rows are so short, and I think I will enjoy clue 3 much more when the rows are, even though the rows are so much longer, I think I will enjoy it more because then that means longer stretch of knitting where I don't have to turn it, I don't have to think about it. And sure enough, as you can probably guess by the amount of progress that I have made in not even in 2 weeks. I think this is probably about a week and a half of knitting. I think picking up 300 stitches was a pain it was not an enjoyable task, but I did it. I think I was watching something on Netflix and picking up stitches. So it worked out. I finally started watching. I'm saving the finale, but the Great British Bake Off, which is called for some reason in the U.S. the Great British Baking Show. Why did they feel the need to change that? I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. But anyways, season 5 is on Netflix, and I'm so late to this party, but I love it. I love it so much. I'm pretty sure that's what I was watching because it's, you know, it's the sort of thing where you can like half pay attention and still get the full benefit while I was picking up stitches and counting. And then I've just been steadily knitting away. I am on, so there's all these lovely, lovely, lovely yarn overs that make like nice little half circle ripples. I'm on the 3rd wedge. So this entails the longest short rows ever. Each row still has hundreds of stitches, except for, I think the last row is probably the only row that has fewer than 100 stitches. Everything else has well over. But it's obviously a paid for pattern, so I don't want to give too much away. But anyways, I am in love. And I think I have enough yarn to get the 4th wedge. I haven't decided yet if I'm just going to go for it, which is probably what I will do. But really, I should put in a lifeline just to be sure. I think I will be fine. And if for some reason, I don't know, I think I'll be fine. I think I have plenty of yarn. This is Manos del Uruguay Fino in the Ivory Letter Opener colorway. And it's a fine fingering weight, a light fingering weight yarn. And I think the skein had like 500 yards in 100 grams. So I have more of this yarn than the pattern calls for. So I think that I should be okay to knit that 4th wedge, which would be great because A, that would mean that the shawl is bigger. B, that would mean that I get to keep knitting these nice long rows for longer. And yeah, so I'm really, really enjoying this again. Not that I didn't enjoy the cables, and I love how the cable looks, but it just wasn't as enjoyable for me, I guess. So yes, back to that, and really, really loving it again. My color A is from the Wool Barn. It's the Luxury Sock in the Butterflies colorway. And color B, which is the dark gray, is Dream in Color Jilly in the Basalt colorway. So that is that. And I cannot wait. It's that paradox between wanting it to be done so that you can wear it and wanting it never to be done so that you can just keep knitting it forever and ever. I don't know what's going on with my sleeves here. Anyways. Yes, so my last knitting work in progress is my Christmas Eve socks, which finally have a heel. Oh, Holly, stop it. And I'm still loving these. I mean, they're socks, so there's not a whole lot to say about them. But yeah, I posted a picture of them on Instagram recently. Oh, Holly, where are you going? What are you doing? She wants to be on the show. Hello. I posted a picture of them on Instagram and said, you know, here I am. So many people are finished with it. I cast these on as part of the Little Bobbins Christmas Eve cast on. And so many people are done with their Christmas Eve cast on socks. I'm still on the first one. And I posted a picture on Instagram, and it seems that a lot of you are in fact still on your first one. So thank goodness for that. And I think I'm in the camp I'm knitting them kind of slowly because I don't want them to be over. So here's my little picot cast on edge and the yarn, nice and close up. So this is Night Owl Fibers in the Peppermint Swirls colorway, which has some sparkle in it. I don't know if you can tell, but it does have some sparkle in it. And it's a perfect amount of sparkle. It's subtle, but it's still sparkly. if that makes sense. And I'm knitting these as ever on my Hiya Sharps US 1 DPNs, which is 2.25 millimeters. So that's that. For the heel, I just used some Cascade Heritage sock yarn. I need to actually order another skein or two of that because it just keeps getting used for contrast heels, and it's being used for the borders on my granny square blanket, which I did not bring to show you guys because I've not done a whole lot of work. I have not added any of the squares that I had crocheted up over Christmas while I was away, and I think I've only crocheted one new square, so I didn't think it was worth showing off. But I do have another work in progress, which is I am back to spinning again. Thank goodness. I don't know what happened that I stopped spinning for months, weeks, months. I think it was months. But at last, I have finished. This is the 3rd ounce of the braid that I'm working on. I did not bring over the first 2 ounces to show you because they've already appeared on the podcast several times. But there is ounce. Oh, hey, there we go. This is the 3rd ounce, and I'm working on the 4th. It is a braid from Yarn Rescue, which is a super cute logo. Step away from the acrylic, and it is, eggplant colorway in dyed on Polworth, 100% Polworth. If it will focus. There we go. So I'm working on ounce number 4. Here is where I am. Making progress. I didn't spin last night, but that was the first night in a little while that I'd taken a break. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And even though I took a break, I feel like my spinning didn't suffer too much for it. I was worried that it would be all thick and thin, and it's not perfectly even by any stretch of the imagination. I am still a very, very novice spinner. This is my 2nd braid. But it's definitely a lot more even than the first braid of fiber that I spun. So I'm really pleased with that. And here is what I have left. So just a little bit, not very much. And yay. So that is, I don't think there's a whole lot more to say about it. I'm spinning it on my drop spindle. And yeah, I'm not allowed to buy any more fiber until I spin more, but I keep being tempted to buy more fiber. Anyways, that is all of my works in progress, stuff like that. So I mentioned last episode that we'd gone to the Kimball Art Museum, and beforehand we went to a yarn shop, Mad Tosh Crafts, which officially no longer exists. They closed forever at the end of the year. December 31st was their last day. And it was affiliated, I think it was owned by the same woman who is the dyer behind Madeline Tosh Yarns. But we went because they were having a giant sale. I think the entire store was 50% off, which was pretty crazy. And I'm so sad that they closed because it looked like it was a really great yarn store. But anyways, I got a bunch of stuff, and so I'm going to show you, I think, half of it today. I know I'm only showing you part of it because I'm not allowed to buy yarn this month. So I am not allowing myself to buy yarn this month. So I decided that I would spread out the acquisitions over 2 episodes, so that, you know, more fun for everybody, right? If I can enable you more frequently. So what I have to show you today is, oh, bye Holly, these 2 lovely skeins, which are, despite the fact that the labels are different colors, they are both Tosh Merino Light in the Modern Fair Isle colorway. And I was just watching Danny of Little Bobbins, her most recent episode. Oops, that is upside down, Robin. And she is using Modern Fair Isle on Tosh Merino Light in a project, and I think that's pretty cool because it is an absolutely stunning speckled colorway. So I got 2 skeins, And I think they have to go together in something. And it has to be something where I will use all 840 yards. So I need to think about that because, I mean, these are just too pretty to be something boring. So I'm going to think for a little while. They're going to sit in my stash for a while before I turn them into something. The other thing that I'm going to show you is super, super special. Look at this. Look at how pretty this is. It is, I'll show you the other side, which is basically exactly the same, but I will show it to you anyways. This is Freya Fine Hand Paints. It can't speak English today. It is their fingering weight yarn. Yeah, it's just fingering. But it's one of their absolutely stunning gradients. And my old local yarn shop in Alexandria, Fiberspace, carries these lovely, lovely, and they have, I think they carry all of the different weights. I think Freya Fibers dies on pretty much every weight of yarn. And these gorgeous gradients. And this color is called South Beach. There we go, South Beach. And every time I went in and they had these lovely, lovely beauties on the shelf, I would pick them up and I would carry them around and I would think about it and I would think about it and I would think about it. And I could just never justify, they aren't cheap. And I absolutely understand why they aren't. Because I can't imagine that dyeing these gradients is the easiest thing in the world. But the fingering weight skeins, I don't know about the other ones, they're only 75 grams. That's not a ton of yarn. And I just couldn't justify it to myself. No matter how beautiful they were, I just couldn't spend the money. Which is absolutely nothing to say against the company. I totally understand why they cost as much as they do. But when they're 50% off. So I finally have one, and this is going to sit in my stash, I think, for a while. I just want to admire it and pick it up and hold it and tell it how pretty it is. Yeah, so that's that. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to make with it. Absolutely, like, not the foggiest clue. I think Zuzu's Petals is probably one of the obvious options, and I'm actually not that enamored with that project, that pattern. I don't know why. I think it's a clever idea. I know lots of people have knit it and lots of people love it, but I just don't think it's for me. So if you have any suggestions and want to share them, please feel free. But know that this is going to sit in my stash for a while, and I'm just going to look at it, hold it up to my face, squish it, tell it how pretty it is, put it back in my stash. It's sitting on the shelf like this. And the reason that this is one of the skeins that I'm showing you today is because it was really obvious. It sits on my shelf, and it sits like this, and you can see it. And it looks different from every other skein. So I had to show it to you today. So I have a book to talk to you about. And I don't know if anybody else is like me. I mean, I know there's lots of people who are like me. I don't know if any of you are like me. I am kind of quietly obsessed with Hamilton, the musical, on Broadway. I am not a musical person. I have lots of friends who are really into musicals. I just never have been. There's musicals that I like. I love Sound of Music. Absolutely love Sound of Music. I love Phantom of the Opera, and I love Chicago, and that's about it. That's not sort of a world that I don't know, and I have no good reason for being uninterested. It's just not my thing, except for those 3 very specific musicals that I just mentioned, which I like. But Hamilton is kind of, it's a sensation. And if you haven't listened to it, you can stream it on Spotify. And most of the show is sung. So you pretty much get the full story by listening to the full cast recording. And I will try to post a link to, there's a website that has all of the lyrics, because the show, so it's about founding father Alexander Hamilton, based on the biography, the monumental biography by Ron Chernow, I haven't read Hamilton, but I have read his Washington biography, and it's stellar. So if you're interested in biographies, I can recommend the Washington biography, and I can only assume that the Hamilton biography is as stellar. Noise, you jumped down. Sorry. We just have to listen to her talk to us all day if I didn't pick her up. She does that. She jumps off my lap, and then 5 minutes later, she's back and wants to be picked up again. So it's based on the biography of Hamilton. The entire show is done in sort of a rap style. And it's just great. It doesn't sound like it should work, but it does. It's fabulous. And it's coming to Chicago in January with a different cast. But Lin-Manuel Miranda, he wrote the show, and he is Hamilton, and so that's pretty cool. I think he is going to be helping to pick the cast for the version in Chicago. I need to find out when tickets go on sale because I desperately want to go. Anyways, that's enough about Hamilton. I'm going to tell you about a book that is not, in fact, it's tangentially related to Hamilton. Very, very tangentially, in that it takes place in America in the 1780s-ish, 90s. And it is Parrot and Olivier in America. Noise, where? Sorry, folks. Cat, sit down on my lap. There we go. Okay, back to the book. Parrot and Olivier in America by Peter Carey. As you can see, it was a National Book Award finalist. Peter Carey has won the Man Booker Prize twice, and Parrot and Olivier in America was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. So, and there's the Miami Herald. As big and bold as America itself, Carey at his finest, he is a sheer magician with language, which is absolutely true. So it's set in sort of early America, and Olivier is an aristocrat who has fled America. Parrot is the son of an English engraver, so they are totally opposite ends of the social spectrum. And I will read the back of the book to you. Olivier, an improvisation on the life of Alexis de Tocqueville, is an aristocrat born just after the French Revolution. Parrot is the motherless son of an itinerant English engraver. Their lives are joined when Olivier sets sail for the New World to save his neck from one more revolution, and Parrot is sent with him as a spy, protector, foe, and foil. With the story of their unlikely friendship, Peter Carey explores the adventure of American democracy with the dazzling inventiveness and richness of characterization, story, and language that we have come to expect from this superlative writer. Which about sums it up. Peter Carey's way with words is remarkable, and you cannot help but fall in love. He tells, I think the chapters alternate. Certainly the perspectives alternate. I don't know if they alternate exactly evenly. But you get some of the stories told from Parrot's perspective, and some is told from Olivier's perspective. Okay, you can climb up on that side of the desk, Noise. And this book was given to me by a very dear friend of mine. We have a cat tail in the Noise. Move. It was given to me by a very dear friend of mine who, this is one of her favorite novels. And I love it when people give me their favorite books, because I think it's really fun to know, okay, hang on, we're about to have a disaster. Noise! I think she was going to knock over the camera. That would have been bad. But I really love it when people give me their favorite novels, because I feel like that's kind of a special thing about somebody. And this is a really great book. So highly recommend it for people who are interested in historical fiction, early America, unlikely friendships. This is about that. You can sit on the desk in a minute. Yes, it's like a small child. I don't know why I'm flipping through it. You should just read it because it's really good. And I actually had never heard of Peter Carey before this. He's written, obviously, other excellent novels, none of which I had heard of, and I still have not read any of them. Hang on. Let me hold you. There you go. Is that better? Or are you done being sad now? That's good. Okay. So anyways, I think that might be all I have for you this week, this episode. I can tell you I went to the Shed Aquarium, which is obviously in Chicago. I think it's one of the older aquariums in the country. They opened in the 1930s, 1930, I think. They have a fish who has been there since 1933, which is pretty cool. He's called Grandad. He is a lungfish. He's really ugly, but it's still cool because he's older than most people I know, except for my grandparents. And I love jellyfish and seahorses a lot. They also have these like charming, they're called garden eels. They have holes in the sand, and they sort of come up, and it looks like growing grass when they sort of come up out of their holes. And then if something scares them, they go back down. They're really cute. But I went with a friend of mine, and I haven't been to the Shed Aquarium since I was like a child, like a young child. So that was really fun. We went on the day of New Year's Eve, and there were a lot of children there. It was very loud, but it was worth it because the fish are cool. And it was nice to catch up with my friend. We've known each other since high school, and she's one of the few people from high school that I still keep in touch with. And then I spent New Year's Eve in my apartment by myself with a glass of Prosecco and a book and my knitting and some Netflix, and that is exactly how New Year's Eve is intended to be spent. It was quiet and it was great. So I hope that all of you have had a lovely holiday season, and that your first couple of weeks of the new year are off to a good start, that 2016 will be a good year for you, that the transition from the holidays to going back to work was not too painful. I'm back in classes, and so it's hit the ground running, which is, I guess that's a good thing. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Classes are going well. And I think with that, Holly and I are going to leave you. This has been a slightly shorter episode than last episode, which was, I don't know why I always do that. I know that I film every other week. I don't film weekly. But yet, I always refer to the last episode like it was last week. I have one more piece of news before I go, which is, and if any of you have watched the most recent episode of the Bakery Bears podcast, you will already know what this exciting news is. If you don't watch the Bakery Bears podcast, I urge you to watch the Bakery Bears podcast because Kay and Dan are delightful and their podcast is great, and so you should just watch it. It is like sitting down to watch a movie. It's always so much fun. And they have a sort of quiz show called Knit or Forfeit. And the first version was between Kay and Dan. And then Dan challenged Nathan of the Sockmatician podcast to a round. And then Kay will be playing Tilly Trout of the Tilly Trout podcast, I think early in this year. And then I get to play Dan in a history-themed round. So that will be, I'm so excited about that. And it'll be a lot of fun. I'm hoping that it'll be a good competition, bring out my inner competitive self. You went down. So anyways, you should go, if you have not checked out their podcast, you should go do that. And I will keep you posted. It will be in the spring sometime when my round with Dan airs. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm very grateful to Dan and Kay for giving me that opportunity, that chance to appear on their quiz show and their podcast. It's a real treat that I'm really excited, really looking forward to, and I'm really looking forward to the round with Tilly Trout, and then after I think the fourth version is with Kay and Xena of Little Yellow Uke. So it should be really great, and I'm really excited. And we have a cattail that is appearing in the film, and you can probably hear her meowing. And I think on that note, oh my goodness, Holly, what are you doing? I think I'm really going to leave you because clearly my cat is sad about something. I think mostly that, oh my goodness, she is climbing into the box. Yep, that yellow box that I showed you, my cat is going to climb into it. Yep, okay. So I am going to leave you, and I will try to leave you with a little shot of Holly standing in this box because it's pretty darn cute. So I hope you all have a lovely couple of weeks until I see you again. Happy knitting. Come over and say hi on the forum if you haven't already done so. Come join in the knit along fun, and I will see you next time. All right, bye.